Hello everyone, it's Lewis P here. I hope everyone's having an amazing day, night, wherever you are in the world. What we're going to be talking about is the Deadmau5 Masterclass versus the Armin Van Buuren Masterclass and how they differentiate and which one is actually better for you. Today what we're going to be talking about is an overview of the class, the type of producers that you're ultimately going to be learning from, their beginnings, how they came to be, the tools that they use, Ableton versus Logic Pro, the DAWs obviously, which coincides with that, the synthesizers they use, the core differences between the two and their teaching methods, their thoughts on festivals and production, creating a full track itself, the ethics behind both types of producers, which is quite interesting. So I highly recommend you watch that part for sure. And as a final note, we'll look at the best case scenario, which class will work better for you and what you want to become as a producer or a musician yourself. Now, if we look at the masterclass history, you'll know that the Deadmau5 Masterclass was actually the first ever producer DJ type of masterclass that they ever produced. And with that, there came a lot of lessons, which was great. One of the biggest cry out from the masterclass community, we actually want this to go on a bit longer. Deadmau5 Masterclass was still long at 23 lessons, but we just wanted that tiny bit more, guys, and they actually did that. The next one they did was obviously Armin Van Buuren's masterclass, and that went for 33 lessons as opposed to 23. And believe me, guys, you feel the difference there. You feel how much more information comes at you, and it's a lot more valuable in that sense because he actually breaks down an entire track and he builds it from scratch, which ultimately Deadmau5's class doesn't do. But still, that doesn't mean the Deadmau5 Masterclass isn't valuable. It's super valuable, but ultimately I feel they really nailed it with the Armin Van Buuren Masterclass. They got to the heart of what people wanted and they ultimately delivered on that. So the type of producers that you're actually going to be learning from. So on one hand, Deadmau5 is very much a purist producer. He wants full control over all his sounds and he ultimately rejects to use a lot of synthesizers like Nexus 2. If you watched my previous video on Armin's class, you'll see how much he dislikes it or he just doesn't favor it at all. But he puts a lot of emphasis onto analog systems. And if you take a glance at his room, you actually see how much effort he puts into the systems. It's crazy. And I mean, here, I'll put a photo right now of his setup. Look at that, guys. Wow. They are all analog systems, and he actually creates an entire class on digital versus analog synths. And that is such a big, it was my favorite class from the Deadmau5 Masterclass. The difference between analog and digital synthesizers and the amount of control you have from the analog perspective, it's insane. So that was really, really cool. And you see that type of purist mentality from Deadmau5. On the other hand, you have Armin Van Buuren, who really focuses on the digital side of things. He's not afraid to create an entire track from purely digital synthesizers, which is great. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't appreciate analog synthesizers. He actually grew up on synthesizers like that when he was younger, just like Deadmau5 did. His brother is a guitarist, obviously an analog system, and he actually is used in a lot of Armin's tracks, which is awesome for Armin to even pay homage to those guys because he's so digital focused. Now let's have a look at the beginnings, right? So if we actually have a look at both characters, right, both teachers, if you will, Armin is 41 years old and Deadmau5 is 37. So they're basically the same age and they've been in the industry for so long, which means you're actually getting so much more value from them as you would if Garrix was to do it. If Martin Garrix was to actually create this masterclass, you would get value from him for sure from a production perspective and also from like a digital marketing perspective, but you won't get the essence of what it really is to be a musician and having 20 plus years within the industry. So as soon as you are talking to these people, you're getting 40-year-olds that are teaching you, which is very, very valuable to see. You're not just getting a 26-year-old kid basically teaching you what things are. You're getting real experience and real world scenarios, which is really valuable. And it's not only that, they also go deeper into what actually inspired them, which is also a reflection of who they actually are today. For example, Deadmau5 is inspired by multiple different sources and multiple different schools of music. For example, he loves rock, he loves hardcore things, and you actually see this in his coffee runs as well. You know, you listen to the type of music he's listening to and he's like absorbing other artists, listening to other artists in his Twitch stream as well. And he's just taking so much more information from different genres of music. Whereas Armin's more of a purist because he actually started as a rebellion. He was rebellious against his father by playing EDM music. While his father was playing Vangelis, who Armin deems as a founding father of trance, while his father's playing Vangelis, he's playing tracks that are 128 BPM, 132 BPM, p.m. in his room, and his father's coming upstairs and arguing with him, telling him to shut up. So it's like, that's where Armin's come from. So his father was listening and loved this type of synth music. Then Armin rebelled against that by creating this really heavy, deep stuff. And then obviously it turns into a trance track. But obviously Armin is inspired by other forms of music, but he's more so centered around pure trance music, which is cool to see, and it's obviously creating that niche. So it depends on who you are in this case, right? So if you're someone that absorbs different type of music, you love rock, you love, everything, orchestra, everything, then Deadmau5 will really resonate with who you are. On the other hand, if you're more of a purist trance type of person, Armin's definitely in your league because you guys will have the same thoughts. So Deadmau5 is obviously really cool. I appreciate both of them personally. I really like it. Deadmau5 actually made me appreciate other forms of music more so, whereas I used to actually be more on the Armin side of things, whereby I only used to like that whole euphoric trance type of thing. But you know what? Deadmau5 has actually taught me a lot, so I got to give you credit, mate. Thank you very much for even helping me there. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the DAWs that they use. Basically, the DAW is the interface by which they create their music. A lot of people use Ableton and others use Logic Pro. Fruity Loops is in there, and there's Cubase, and there are so many different DAWs. Deadmau5 primarily uses Ableton. Armin uses Logic Pro and Ableton together. The core point that both artists make, both producers, is this: it doesn't matter what tools you are using. What matters is the way you use them. And that applies to many other things in life as well. If you look at any of my previous videos, you'll see straight away that I'm an Ableton user. On the other hand, I took an Armin Masterclass where he's primarily using Logic. It doesn't matter, because now I've just figured how similar Logic is to Ableton. If anything, I'm going to say that they're exactly the same. The only difference is their interface and where things are placed. So in saying that, if you're an Ableton user and you want to take the Armin Van Buuren Masterclass, by all means do it. If you're a Logic Pro user and you want to take the Deadmau5 Masterclass and you love synth and stuff, do it. It's not going to affect you at all because both are exactly the same at the end of the day. The next component I want to talk about is the depth that both Armin and Deadmau5 go through with respect to festivals and music production at an event. So for example, right, Deadmau5 goes into a great amount of detail when it comes to his events and basically how they build the stage, how they build the cables to affect the lights and the music and connect it all together. And another big thing about Deadmau5 is he's actually a jack of all trades. So not only does he design different stages, for example, he actually designed the Cube, and then on top of that, he also designs the covers for his records. He names everything that he does, and that's why the names are a bit iffy on his tracks, but the reality is he doesn't care that much about it. He's very carefree. On the other hand, Armin Van Buuren only looks in this masterclass at the DJ techniques and the methods to control the crowd as an entertainer. So there's a really massive gap, and I love what Deadmau5 does in his masterclass when it comes to really goes into so much detail, which I love. So I have to give it to Deadmau5 for the production and festival component of this masterclass. Now, the next point I want to bring up is the ethics behind Armin and Deadmau5 themselves. So in the class, they talk about sampling. Sampling's a really big thing in the whole music industry. Armin is of the opinion that, listen guys, you cannot sample other people's things. It's their intellectual property. Do not do it. On the other hand, Deadmau5 is like, whatever, I'm just gonna sample it. And even in the class, he admits to sampling certain things. So you're gonna get two really different perspectives in the music area, which I think is so important for every producer to hear both spectrums of two very successful producers talking about samples within the legal environment. So it's really crucial to hear both perspectives. Now, to end this, guys, what is the best case scenario and which one should you get? Now, for me personally, Armin's class comes out slightly ahead just because there's more content and also the content is more value for me. Let's hold on for a minute because I'm actually an Ableton user and I'm saying the Armin Van Buuren Masterclass is more so for me than the Deadmau5. However, in an ideal world, guys, I would just say get both because you're going to pull so much information from both. And believe me, as soon as you take the Armin or the Deadmau5 Masterclass, you will be ready to finish or you'll be ready to start creating tracks. So it's really cool as a motivational tool as well as a knowledge tool. So at the end of the day, you pick which one you want. I recommend you get the Armin Van Buuren Masterclass. If you click the link in the description, it'll take you straight to the masterclass. So I got you back there, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any feedback on this video, on the classes themselves, which one you preferred out of the lot, please let me know in the description below. If you really enjoyed this video, please give it a subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everyone has an amazing day, night, wherever you are in the world. Lewis P, and out.